Now, if this person had just rooted and can't happen, can't do it, well, they don't want me back. This is not going to work out. They're going to think something's wrong with me. Never would have happened. This person's having their happiest professional experience to date because they challenged their own fear-based thinking and assumptions that truth was reality. And if they hadn't worked with me and themselves on challenging that fear-based thinking, they would not be their happiest self today. The other thing that I find often with not just clients, with a lot of people, is they use one experience as a source of truth. Because one thing happened, that's the only way to do something. Or because that happened with that instance, it's going to happen again. And I said, where's the source of truth for where these thoughts are coming from? Are they assumptive? What is truth and what is reality? And what is your reality based off of? And a lot of times it's our fear. Are you asking these people how you can do things differently? How was it working with me? A lot of times we're afraid to get the feedback because they think it may be negative. That's good because you can do something about it, but it's a not good thing if you don't know about it. And it shows up in your year-end review and you just were clueless about it. Then you're surprised, right? And you didn't have any opportunity to proactively turn that relationship around or to learn from that. Like you may not intentionally, 9 times out of 10, someone didn't intentionally think they didn't intend to show up that way. They just they weren't aware of it. So ask, get curious, get actively curious about seeking feedback from everybody you interact with all the time.
And not be afraid of it. I do want to push the gas on one thing you said just a little bit ago that just, we got to go deeper. We got to go deeper is the point you said. We base our actions off that one experience and treat that as the source of truth. Oh my goodness. And I think that screams back to your point on owning your narrative and taking control of your internal dialogue.
We create our own barriers a lot of the time. We think they're there, but we're creating them. Life is not systematically set up to make life difficult for us. Life, the universe, is for us, not against us. Always.
So Coach Keith, you have given us a multitude upon multitude of gems, strategies, takeaways that we can employ in helping our own achieving peak performance. Some of the things that you covered was self-advocacy from the lens of, are you acknowledging your own self-worth? And hit us all with the hard prints of, it's guaranteed for you. You are worthy to have it unconditionally. And for those who don't know, you have to check previous moments. I was just appalled. I just couldn't believe. I said I had to sit with that for a minute. And you broke down self-compassion, learning how to regulate, learning how to be an advocate for yourself, and employing others to be advocates on your behalf. And you walked us through, okay, worst case scenario, have a plan. Now, what's your excuse? So we appreciate you for diving in on that end. Now we're going to go a little bit deeper, going from, okay, now we're aware that we need to be self-advocates. We're aware that we're worthy of where we're trying to go. But now it's time to step up to the plate. Now it's time to put some action to where we want to be. Now let's stop trying to be in the place of what I could do maybe one day to how do we move this into actuality to become real? I want to read one of the quotes in one of the notes that we had here. To successfully advocate for yourself, it is important to understand your own needs, know the available resources to meet those needs, and communicate your needs to those who can help. And that's Carnegie Mellon University. I think that's a good start off point. Now we're going to action. Do we have the right environment and people around us to help us be successful?
You know, one of the main things that I find that is where people are stuck in that first step is they don't know who to talk to. They don't know the first step to go about doing that when you're advocating for yourself. Like, what do I do? The first thing is to be clear on what you're advocating about. Is it that you want to be invited in the room and meetings to be part of the decision-making process or to learn the process so you can progress into a different role? Is it that you're seeking advocacy for a role, for a progression step? in your organization or whatever it is that you do for vocation? Is it advocacy for at home or in another element where your boundaries are being overstepped? Get clear about what it is that you want to create a boundary or an advocacy around so that you're clear on then what are the tools you need? What is the talk track and the narrative you need? What is the belief system you need to support that? And then you start spanning out, right? That locus of control. Who can I tap and talk to help me with this? Whether it's a coach, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a peer, whether it's your supervisor, whether it's a friend, a family member. Start thinking like seeking the support. What does that look like? But first, we must have clarity. What am I advocating for? Sometimes it's just often I hear the work-life imbalance piece at work and people not advocating for their boundaries. And you most certainly can't show up your best self, your optimal performance when you're exhausted, when you have brain fog, when you're burned out, when you are not aligned to the kind of work that really lights your heart on fire, all of those things. So taking a step back and saying, what am I advocating about? Where do I need advocacy? And then just having a strategic, that's why I love personalized growth plans and strategic goal setting. And when we sit down, I'm like, it sounds so nerdy, but I just love to sit down and really just spend some time on the vision. Like, what is it? What are we actually trying to strive for? Not what someone else tells you you should be striving for. What do you want to strive for? What do you want to do? I asked one of my executive clients recently a very simple question. The person's contract would be coming to an end in that particular role. So what do you want to accomplish the last year of this role? And the person sat back in the chair like, oh, no one asked me that. Every day working towards, organizational key initiatives or results or KPIs, key performance indicators, what you're asked to do in your role. But is anybody asking you what you want to accomplish in this role and how you want to go about that? So get really clear on what happiness and alignment in your role or whatever activity, action you're looking to explore for advocacy. Get clear on that first. And then it's much easier to build a plan around that.
I love that you asked a deeper question, as expected. But I love that you asked a deeper question because many of us who are in high performing roles, high public visible roles, executive roles, we only think in terms of KPIs and results for the company. We don't think in, well, yeah, we can achieve that goal, but don't we want to have fun while doing it? Wait, we can have fun while achieving this? If that's what you want, what do you want? We don't ask that
Yeah.
enough and think deeper as to how we want to get it. How do we want this to
Yeah.
manage and not just get lost in what someone else told us? Here's a stack of things you need to do as your example next year. Good luck. Well, how do I want to approach this? What's the process? And I think what you brought up is something we all need to be more acknowledged and aware of and apply towards.
There's often we know why we're doing it or why we have to do it. We know what we have to do. Who's asking how? And the what if? That's a question that's often not asked. What if?
Ooh, what if shakes me?
What if you were to approach it differently? What if, just what if? That's the piece in getting clarity. And then when you know what it is that you want, let's say it's career progression, what needs to happen in your mind to do that? The other thing that I find often with not just clients, with a lot of people is they use one experience as a source of truth. Because one thing happened, that's the only way to do something. Or because that happened with that instance, it's going to happen again. That is one instance. And so many other what ifs could be part of that you're not considering. And you're binding yourself to an experience that doesn't have to be the only way you experience that. It doesn't mean it's going to be replicated if you don't get another source of truth. And that could be try it again, ask someone else. The other thing that's really important is we understand how we think we understand how we're perceived, but unless you ask, you may not know the truth.
Right.
How are you showing up in communication with your peers, with your supervisors, with partners across different, cross functionalities? A lot of times people have to work with different people at their same level or beneath or above. Are you asking these people how you can do things differently? How did you How was it working with me? A lot of times we're afraid to get the feedback because they think it may be negative. That's good because you can do something about it, but it's a not good thing if you don't know about it. And it shows up in your year-end review and you just were clueless about it. Then you're surprised, right? And you didn't have any opportunity to proactively turn that relationship around or to learn from that. Like you may not intentionally, no, 9 times out of 10, someone didn't intentionally think they didn't intend to show up that way. They just they weren't aware of it. So ask, get curious, get actively curious about seeking feedback from everybody you interact with all the time and learn from that. What is it telling you? Sometimes you're showing up in a way that's based in fear, that's based in scarcity and lack or confidence. Could be all positive feedback. You're like, great. What do you think about when you work with me? What is one thing that you think I do really, really well? And if that aligns with your vision of yourself, you're like, wow, I'm showing up the way I want to show up. You must seek proactively. Don't wait for mid-year and year-end review. You must proactively on your own seek feedback from everybody.
And not be afraid of it. I do want to push the gas on one thing you said just a little bit ago that just, oh, we got to go deeper. We got to go deeper. Is the point you said we base our actions off that one experience and treat that as the source of truth. Oh my goodness. And I think that screams back to your point on owning your narrative and taking control of your internal dialogue. What's some things that you would suggest people who currently may have had a bad experience and they're treating that as the catch all? How do you guide them through that so they can go try again?
It's walking through the experiences they feel from that experience so that we can find out if it's what it's rooted in. So someone gives me an example that they try to advocate for themselves for work-life balance, for shorter hours or more remote. How did you approach the conversation? Where did the conversation happen? What language did you use? Were you doing all the talking? Finding areas for improvement and again, doing the fear exercise. What is the worst thing that could happen if you have that conversation again? I'll give you an example. I had a client who decided to go back to they wanted to go back to work at their prior organization where they were before. They'd only been at the new organization a year, just under a year, but realized it was not a fit. And they had a dialogue in their mind that they're going to think something's wrong with me that I'm leaving. They're going to be mad at me that I left and I want to come back now. They're not going to want to have me in the same position. It's all of these things. And I said, where's the source of truth for where these thoughts are coming from? Are they assumptive? What is truth and what is reality? And what is your reality based off of? And a lot of times it's our fear. So tell the person to have an exploratory conversation with the person who they were still engaging with. That's that advocacy and really staying in touch with people, even when you leave an organization, especially when you leave under good terms, even if you're laid off, you are fired, you still stay in touch with people. So the boss of that entire division where this person used to work was open to a coffee and said, we'd love to have you back. Happened that a position was available. The person interviewed for it, came back and is happier than they were even before when they were working there. Now, if this person had just rooted and can't happen, can't do it, well, they don't want me back. This is not going to work out. They're going to think something's wrong with me. Never would have happened. This person's having their happiest professional experience to date because they challenged their own fear-based thinking and assumptions that truth was reality. And if they hadn't worked with me and themselves on challenging that fear-based thinking, they would not be their happiest self today. That person had to do the work. I can't take credit for someone challenging their own fear-based thinking and doing that every day and taking the leap of faith. I just ask them to take a leap of faith and think differently.
And that's a perfect example of overcoming those barriers.
Yeah. We create our own barriers a lot of the time. We think they're there, but we're creating them. Life is not systematically set up to make life difficult for us. Life, the universe, is for us, not against us. Always. Always. Even if it's a challenge. My grandmother used to say, when the door closes, the window opens. So maybe you're not supposed to go that way. Instead of thinking that's a barrier and like the world is against me, what is it telling you? Like every time something happens with one of my flights and I'm like, I'm just not supposed to be on that plane. I don't know why. I accept from the universe that message. I'm not supposed to, I'm supposed to be here. Sometimes it happens when I have flight delays. I meet someone in the airport who I end up being friends with or ends up being a client or referring a client to me or just a wonderful connection. Be open to the possibility that the universe is trying to guide you in another mindset.
Well, I tell anyone be open to the possibility of working with you as their coach to help guide them because I don't know about anyone else here, but I feel like I have the best seat in the house right now, just absorbing all of this insights. And you are just gem after gem, but it's real. It's rooted in honesty and truth and authenticity. And I love to pause for a moment to just kind of spotlight you a little bit more. And maybe if you'd be open to sharing some of your own journeys of overcoming the barriers to be who we are experiencing you as Coach Laila Keith is right now. I'm sure there's things you've navigated to be this person that you are now sharing these great insights with us.
One of the things that I'm proud of as a coach, it's the authenticity because I've lived it. And often, especially when I work with women of color, often I've experienced what they're experiencing. So it allows me to coach from a place of authenticity and truth and compassion and openness. And I share my struggles with my clients too that I had. It also helps to alleviate and eradicate that perfectionism. I'm not perfect. I don't strive for perfect. I just strive for being in alignment with my value system and showing up every day to support other people to navigate this, but feeling that they're heard, valued, and that they have a voice. I had a lot of these experiences, but I didn't have a roadmap. When I was in corporate, coaching was not a thing. No one talked about coaching. You had mentors, you didn't have coaches. I didn't know where to go when I didn't have the advocacy. So I had to learn to build that advocacy outside of the building because I didn't have it, or had to find mentors in other ways, networking events. Every time I went to a company event, I wasn't there to drink and party. I was there to make connections and to learn from people. And to, especially if I had the opportunity and the benefit of having an achievement that was shared, like when I won Rookie of the Year, when I was in sales, or when I won, a president's club, I used that opportunity to advocate for myself of what I could do more, of why I want to be on this project, why I want to be a district manager, or why I might be a great fit for this. I've accomplished this, but I have more to learn. Can I get under your wing? Can I sit in on your regional meetings? Can I sit in on a district manager one-on-one coaching for performance conversation so I hear how you do it, so I can learn how to do it? So even if there's not that opportunity, like, oh, the leadership development program doesn't start until next quarter, it doesn't mean you wait. You can still do some things towards that. So it's learning those things on how you can make your own roadmap. But it was more difficult for me because I didn't have someone guiding me. It took me longer to learn these lessons. And the burnout was the biggest one. My God, my doctor pulled me out. That's how it happened with me. He said, you have a litany of physical symptoms that you said you've been experiencing for over a year. And he said, knock it off. Women your age, especially women of color, have heart attacks and strokes enduring this amount of stress. Knock it off. I'm pulling you out. I said, what, for like the weekend? He said, no, for 6 weeks. I was like, what? I didn't know what that was. I was like, what do you mean? Like, I have to go back to work? He's like, no, you don't. No, you don't. And no, you're not. You're going to go to physical therapy. You're going to get a therapist. You're going to get some coping mechanisms in place for this stress that you're enduring. And then you can come back refreshed and renewed. But you're done for now, for 6 weeks. Like, I'm pulling you out. And I was like, oh, I had no idea because we operate at such high levels, even performing at high levels of stress. Oh, it's wreaking havoc on our bodies and our minds. So that was a really difficult journey for me and an aha moment. And then when I had 6 weeks alone, I was like, what am I doing? Why am I spending time creating coping mechanisms to go to work every day? It just, to me, it was that knock against the head. Like, what do you want to experience? What do you want to attract? Do you want to be stressed out and have coping mechanisms every day and work 16 to 18-hour days? Is that what you want to do? I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. So the day I went back, I quit. I just said, I don't want to do it, but I didn't have a roadmap. That was the difference. One of the things I specialize in is strategy planning, like exit strategy planning. If you want to exit, you don't pull the ripcord like I did. Bye, I'm out of here. Peace. See you later. That caused me even more stress because I didn't have a plan. I was like, what do I do now? Oh. So you got to have an exit strategy plan. So that helps you to transition with less stress and planning, just like you plan for anything else in your life. You need to have a plan. And that just helps you to navigate and know what's happening next, putting one foot in front of the other, feeling confident about your choices and feeling confident about your trajectory. And that helps you have better performance because you are working towards something you're really happy. If you're not happy in the moment, you're working towards that and you're cultivating that path yourself, which is super empowering when you're putting yourself in a position of being aligned with your passion, your love, your calling, your career aspirations, things that really light you up. That's empowering. So those are the things that can help you when you're trying to navigate the situation. And I didn't have these things, but these lessons learned is what I've distilled down into my roadmaps that I share with my clients. So I had to go through that experience so that I could coach to it. I thank the universe that I experienced. It was tough. It was a tough road. I'm thankful I didn't have a stroke. I didn't have a heart attack like some of my clients have. So, but I had to go through that so I could share it. I had to go through that so I can have even more empathy and just root and truth and authenticity when I'm hearing a client talking about this. I truly sometimes I've lived it. I understand it. But I want to understand it from their lens as well, because again, everyone's unique and how they approach it in their own situations. But that's why I coach in career transition. That's why I coach to helping people with growth plans that are personalized. That's why I really want to help on strategic goal setting. Often we put ourselves last and then includes our own progression. We think it's going to be entitled and handed to us. You have to work at it. You want it, you make it happen. Someone's not going to make it happen for you. It's not going to be handed to you.
Yes, ma'am. I must say what you were sharing, we feel it. I feel it through the screen. It hit me. And we appreciate that you're not just one who is so skilled and so talented. You have the experience, the literal experience. You know what it was like without. And I don't want other people to be without. I want to give you the tools so you can reach further and be. And that's how it should be. And the last thing I take away on that is when you're talking about, I'm grateful the universe put me in this way. Otherwise, I wouldn't be guided in the way that we're supposed to go. And to your point, we're always thinking, why is this happening to me? Well, reframe of thought. Is it happening for me? Is it meant to
Yes.
guide me on that pathway? But without people like you challenging our beliefs and rewiring our minds to think of what's possible, of course we're going to see everything as woe is me and negative and I can't, because we don't have people in our corners to tell us we can.
We're often taught as coaches not to use why because it can trigger a defensive response or feeling from someone, the why question. You might ask yourself when something negative is happening, what can I learn from this experience? Instead of why is this happening to me, which can help us, lean into a victimism, mindset or a negative or lacking scarcity fear mindset, is what can I learn from this? What have I learned? What can I use in this experience to propel my performance forward? What if this was meant to happen so that I can be my best self? Like some of the best leaders talk about that vulnerability, that piece, that the struggles that they had. Then someone feels like they're me. I can be that. I talk a lot about role modeling to leaders, especially executives, because if you're making it look difficult, if you're making it look out of alignment with value systems and a calling for someone, it don't look sexy. They don't want to replicate what you're doing. They don't want to replicate that experience. It's really important that we're role modeling self-advocacy, telling their story. How did you get where you are as a leader? What were the pitfalls you had to overcome? What self-advocacy measures did you put in place when you had doubt, self-doubt, and inner critics just overcoming your thought process? What did you do? How did you get through that? We have to really become more vulnerable as leaders and share these experiences so people don't feel isolated, because the human experience, we're all having a very similar experience often in life in one way or another. Even take work aside, we all have an inner critic, all of us. We all have scraped and, fallen and scraped our knees, right? We all bleed red. It's just really personalizing the experience in a way that you're sharing your vulnerability with people. That really helps people connect and makes us all not feel so alone and isolated in our experience. I know I've had the benefit of having some great leaders along the way who I really connected with, who I felt I could be myself, and that helped me advocate, because there's something about code switching for women that's really challenging in the corporate environment, where you feel like you have to show up a certain way. You have to feel, if you're assertive, how you may be perceived, or if you're too caring, how you will be perceived, or if I show up with my hair froed out, will people look at me differently and think differently of me as a woman? If I don't wear makeup, will I be perceived differently? If I don't wear a suit? There's a lot of that split authenticity and code switching, and even how people speak and how they feel they're being perceived. There has to be a place for authenticity in order for self-advocacy to root from a place of self-worth. So the other thing is, organizations need to make space for people to be their authentic selves. There has to be inclusion and diversity and equity and justice. There has to be a place for people to be able to show up at work, their authentic selves. And if you're at a place, an organization, a project where you're being tolerated instead of valued, time to bounce. Because unless that organization is engaging in culture coaching shifts and transformation that they want to engage in, the organization's not going to change. So then that locus of control is, what can you control? You can change your experience by not being at that organization anymore. So then you need an exit. You need an exit plan. You need an exit strategy planning session with someone to help you navigate your next act, your next chapter, your next move, so that you're in a place where you're feeling valued, heard, respected, and authentic, your authentic self, so you can advocate.
Who would have thought embracing advocacy could do so much? Who would have thought? Coach Laila, we appreciate you for just giving us all of these insights. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but we got a whole series of notes here. I am trying to decompress. I'm going to leave this conversation and be like, tell my wife, I got to sit with this. Can we talk through this together? Because we got to practice how to self-advocate, how to self-regulate, and all the things you dropped and shared. And for those who may not know, if you're trying to connect with Coach Laila Keith on LinkedIn, it's linkedin.com/Laila W. Keith, or you can go to novaquestcoaching.com as well. I don't know about y'all, but we want more. We want more Coach Laila giving us insights. But I challenge all of you to sit with these messages, walk through them and the topics and themes that she's sharing, and don't just consume it. Start to make an action plan on how to apply it. I always tell people when they look at certain things, what good is it if someone gives you the whole recipe, all the ingredients to make the best cake in the world, and you sitting on the kitchen and never try it? Coach Laila has given us all the ingredients and the tools to help us be better advocates for ourselves, both professionally and personally. I dare you to try it, and then go reach out to her and book a call with her and see where we can go from there. This is the insights you get on the Coach's Corner. And I'm just full. I am hefty full. And we're so grateful for you, Coach Laila. Is there any parting words you would like to share in this moment?
Well, I'm grateful to be here. And yes, please do connect with me. I always offer complimentary, consultation calls, with folks, just to see what's going on. And even through those conversations, often someone gets a little bit of clarity to move forward. But I, like you, Troy, am someone who likes to advocate for action. And in order for us to experience something different. We have to do something different. So I challenge everybody who is listening today to pick one thing that we talked about today with advocacy, whether it's naming your inner critic and moving through an exercise to just escort them out of your life party, or whether it's thinking about what's one thing I can do today to take one step towards self-advocacy, whether it's making a list of your achievements and reviewing that for your self-confidence, or who is someone who I can build a mentorship with so I can start having a dialogue. Pick one thing, one action you can do today to move forward in your self-advocacy, and then share the results with us. We want to hear about it in the Coach's Corner. We want to hear how you're doing. We're here to champion your wins along with you for your growth. But I will challenge you every time we talk, every time I'm here in the Coach's Corner, I want to hear one action step you all have taken, and I want you to share. I want you to share in comments what's working for you, because as a community, we learn and we grow and we better together. So we want to hear from you here in the Coach's Corner.
That's a wrap, y'all. I don't know what else used to be said. We'll see y'all next time.
See you next time.